I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about. Today's episode features one of my good friends, Jamie Meeks, sports dietitian for the NFL for the New Orleans Saints. Not only is Jamie an incredible sports dietitian, she is also an incredible example of working hard to build something that you believe in. So if the job or the opportunity that you're looking for isn't there, if it doesn't exist, put in the time, put in the energy, pour your passion into it, and create the opportunity. And I've watched Jamie do this over the years, and it's been amazing to watch. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from her too, how she has built and how she has created the roles that she has had. I first met Jamie about a decade or so ago when she was building the sports nutrition program at LSU. She is warm, fun, and funny. And as you'll hear, her energy and her spirit are infectious. And she has a really easy way of explaining the science of sports nutrition, making her approachable for players and coaches alike. And part of her role with the Saints is she meets with players one-on-one. So she is guiding players of all types, all different types of positions, from running backs who are struggling to keep weight on to linemen who are struggling to keep their weight down. And she helps them guide them in reaching their weight goals, their performance goals, and helps them to deal with any nutrition related issues, whether it's muscle cramping, maximizing energy, enhancing recovery. Jamie plans all the team meals, and she travels with the team to all the away games. And so today with Jamie, we're going to dive into her work as a sports dietitian for the Saints, what a typical day is like. Of course, there's really no typical day, but I'm really excited to sit down with Jamie since the first 15 or so years of my career as a dietitian were heavily focused on sports and performance nutrition, everything from high school and college athletes to professional athletes, ranging from football players to boxers to baseball players. And so I'm really thrilled to see what Jamie has created. I admire how she has continued to pave the way for sports dietitians who work with athletic teams all over the country. So I'm excited that Jamie's here to share her insight and her experiences with us today. She and I sat down recently, and here are some of the highlights of our conversation. So without any further ado, here's Jamie Meeks, sports dietitian for the New Orleans Saints. Welcome, Jamie. I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to join. Thank you.
So there's so much fun stuff that I think your job is an enviable job, to be sports dietitian for an NFL team and work with the players, get to know them, connect with them, work with them one-on-one on their diets, work with them as a team. Your office is actually in the Saints training facility. And so you kind of get that up close personal. So what some of the things we'll be talking about are what some of the players' favorite things are, kind of the sneak peek behind the scenes, fun facts about the players. So you'll hear all that. So tell us about your role, though, before we get into all that, as a sports dietitian for the Saints. What all does that involve? Like, what's your day-to-day like? And I know it varies by, in season, out of season, but kind of what's your big picture like?
Right. So I have a plethora of roles at the Saints. And I would say my biggest role is coordination of team meals. So anything that our team eats, whether it be home in our cafeteria or when we're in the air on the airplane, when we land and we're at a hotel, or even when we're at an away stadium, anything that we're eating together as a team, I'm coordinating those meals. So that does take a lot of planning, a lot of communication with different people throughout the entire country. So that's, I would say, the biggest job of mine.
So that means even coordinating with the hotels they're staying at, everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I do get to meet a lot of different type of chefs and catering companies. So it is fun to see how different hotels and caterers and chefs work throughout our country.
And pretty much are they open to working with you? And
Exactly, yes.
Good.
And they're used to working with a lot of NFL teams or sport teams that travel to their hotels or wherever we may be going. So they're open and they understand the needs of these elite athletes and the importance of making sure that it's good quality food.
So in addition to kind of taking the lead on team meals, what are the other parts of the role of being a sports dietitian for an NFL team?
Right. So I would say another top job of mine is education. And these guys, there's a wide range. There's guys that truly understand their bodies and understand the importance of nutrition and how it's going to affect their health and their performance. And then on the other end, they may not know much at all. So it's really trying to get to know these guys on a personal level, see where their education level is when it comes to nutrition, and educating them on really where they're lacking or what type of questions they may have when it comes to their diet, nutrition, supplementation, energy levels. I get lots of questions about anything and everything. So it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me up to date with the research, the nutritional science research out there. And it's pretty fun to really see how the guys utilize this information and put it into practice.
And because they all have vastly different goals. Some of them struggle to keep their weight on. Some of them struggle to keep their weight down. Muscle cramping, I would imagine,
Yep.
Performance, sustained energy throughout
Exactly.
games and practice. So that's really cool. And so you've got the on-site cafeteria at the Saints training facility that you coordinate all meals there. And then you also have the Fourth Down Cafe.
Yes.
And you kind of designed that and planned for this.
Right. So this Fort Down Cafe is if you think of a smoothie bar, snack area, and actually Coach Sean Payton, he built that before I was hired, and so the space was there. I don't think it was utilized to the best of its ability. So when I did come in, I did see a vision, and we made a few changes, and the guys have really, really embraced it, and we do a lot out of it. It's not just here you want a smoothie. It's everything's individualized according to their taste preferences, which is important, calorie levels, protein needs. And then we have a full snack area, again, not just so these guys can have a snack midday, but really to make sure that they're getting the amount of calories and protein and good carbs in their body throughout the day, because their calorie needs are so high and they have long days, long training days. It's a great way to fill in those gaps between meals.
And I've been in there, and it's a really cool space. It's very inviting, very friendly. It kind of just looks like a retail smoothie shop, but you also have educational pieces in there. So you use that kind of as the educational hub, and smart snacks in there too. And then do they get to just so if they're going in to do their workout, do they order their smoothie before? How does that work?
Right. So I would say we get to know these guys so well where we get their order at the beginning of the off-season training, and we tweak it throughout that off-season period, and that becomes their shake.
And you tweak it based on what their feedback is?
What their feedback is it, do they like it? Is it, is it messing with their calorie levels throughout the day? Are they a whey protein type of guy? Or are they a plant-based protein type of guy? And it'll change. Some of them will change throughout the season, but a lot of guys find one they love and they stick with it. So when we see, okay, they're in this workout group, we'll have it ready for them post workout. Now, if you're a guy like Drew Brees, he has a different smoothie every day. And if it's a Monday, it's this. If it's a Tuesday, it's this. And he sticks with it throughout the entire season.
Does he base his smoothie off of what he knows that workout is going to be? So he's y'all have designed that to fit for the recovery for that particular type of a workout?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because we'll have one of his harder days will be a peanut butter based protein shake. So it's a little bit higher calories. So he knows he's burning a little bit more calories, putting those calories and that protein back in.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. And so tell us, if someone's not familiar with a sports dietitian, and for our listeners too, I'm also a sports dietitian. So you've got your registered dietitians who typically it's a 4-year undergraduate degree. You get a degree in nutrition, and then you do a dietetic internship after that. And we, for most of the programs, are about 10 months ish. And then you sit for your RD exam, which is kind of like boards, if you think about that. And then you become a licensed registered dietitian. In the case of Jamie and also myself, we have done other specialty certifications that are basically board certify us as sports dietitians. And one of the things that I think is really cool about you is that you have really kind of created your roles where you've gone. So you didn't step into jobs that hired you into an existing position. Really, in both of them, you have designed them from the ground up. And I think that is the coolest thing. So before the Saints, you were sports dietitian for LSU Athletics, so Louisiana State University, and you created that program from ground up. So tell us a snapshot about that. I know that we're taking a step back to college, but I think it's really neat and to have that experience with both college and pros.
Yeah. So like you said, I did my undergrad, I did my internship in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I knew I wanted to focus in sports, so I decided to go back to school to get my master's in exercise physiology because I thought the exercise component compared to my knowledge in nutrition, putting those together, it would be perfect to work in the world of sports. So I actually went back to LSU to do my master's in exercise physiology, and during that time, I had already taken my RD exam. So I was a registered dietitian. So I went to the athletic department and asked if I could volunteer my time doing some consults with the athletes, which turned into not only consults, but team talks. And then from there, I felt like there was a need for someone there all the time.
Because at this point, what year was this about?
This was about 2010, 2011.
And there was no sports dietitian at LSU, which is a major university in athletics. I mean, major player. So,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw that there was definitely a need for someone to be available for these athletes for their nutrition questions and those that needed nutrition consultation, not just knowing what to eat, but they have a variety of athletes, not just football and baseball, but even gymnasts and swimming and cross country that deal with certain issues like eating disorders. And I think that's a big issue that a registered dietitian would be able to help. So what I did was I put together a business plan for a full-time sports dietitian on staff and presented it to the athletic training department, who then presented it to the administration, and they liked it. And so 6 months later, I was full-time with the department. And starting the program was a bit hard, because I was the first one. They didn't really know what I needed to do, and I was new at it too. So I was just trying to, baby steps, implementing a few things here and there. And I would say by 2014, things really took off. We built fueling stations around the athletic facilities where, similar to what we talked to about the Saints, where we had healthy snacks and shakes available to help with the recovery and the recovery process, help with these athletes, again, fill in those gaps between their meals and to meet their calorie levels. And it really, really did make a big difference.
I think that's just a really cool thing, because I think it's just for anybody listening too who says, man, that's a really cool job. Yes, it is. But you've also worked really hard to get there, and you also put a lot into creating these opportunities for it. And I think, in anything that we do, so someone who's listening who isn't a sports dietitian, but whatever we're doing, and we think, okay, here's what I am, here's what my skills are, what are those opportunities? I always love the what if, or my favorite words, because you're like, hey, what if we, and then it's like, let's just try it, And so I think that's really awesome of how you created that and have built that. And so from there, the Saints saw this.
The Saints did see it. Yep.
And said, we want you.
Right. Well, not specifically, but they did see that there were a lot of top universities utilizing sport dietitians, not only as consultants, because that's kind of where the NFL started, was with dietitian consultants. And they saw that there was a need to have someone there full time for their athletes as well.
I think that's a big thing, because players, they could schedule a one-on-one with you, which we'll talk more about that too. But it's oh, by the way, that happens so many times. It's like the meeting after the meeting, or like the unplanned encounter, where that's where so much of the meat and the good stuff happens, more than that scheduled time. And you don't get that if you don't have someone full time.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Saints saw that need, and they did go through an interview process with a few dietitians, and I landed the job, and it's been phenomenal. It's a great organization to work for, and they've embraced, and starting at the Saints was the same at LSU. They weren't used to having someone full-time dealing with just nutrition. And I feel that our sport nutrition program has just skyrocketed. And not only the athletes, but our coaches, our administrators, and even just office staff, they truly do see the importance of what good nutrition can do for our athletes.
And one of the things that I see that I love is the respect that they all have. If there's any for you, there's always the let's ask Jamie. Like if there's a new product, let's ask Jamie. If it's always Jamie says, so there's so much of a respect and follow through on what you say, which I think is fantastic. So tell us kind of what are some of the different aspects of your role and kind of break it down for us. So I know you do the one-on-one consults and what that looks like. Just kind of walk through like what's a typical day like for you in the job, and what are some of the biggest differences you see in all aspects when it comes to the players, when it comes to the coaches and their influence or their reception of things, and then also the organizations in general? Like, what are the biggest differences you see?
Right. Well, you asked the difference. I'll start with the similarity, or just athletes are just driven individuals. And so they deep down know that their bodies is what makes them so elite. But I think when it comes to the college guys, I think it's really trying to dig deep and let them understand that nutrition does play a role because they are younger and they can bounce back. They can eat poorly or stay out late and don't get as much sleep. They can recover a little bit faster. As these guys get into the pros, they're young at first, but some of these guys are in their 10 plus years. They start to understand that their bodies aren't as resilient as they were back in college. And so that's when they really, really start understanding that, okay, I need to focus on nutrition. But I think sport nutrition has become such a hot topic in the world of sports and for these athletes that they come in both college and in the pros asking about it. What can I do to be healthy? But I would say, to answer your question, the biggest difference would be that these NFL guys, I would say, really take nutrition a little bit more seriously than the college guys. They know that their bodies are their money makers. This is their job. And so they want to make the most of their football career. And they will do anything and everything to help keep their bodies healthy.
I think that's a really cool thing because I think, I guess you can kind of see it both ways. When you're in college, you've got that drive to make it to the pros. Mm-hmm. And so once you're in the pros, it could be a little tempting to maybe say, well, I'm here. I can kind of sit back a little bit and, chill a little bit. So I think I love hearing that they're even more driven once they're there. And then also maybe that's part of that natural selection process. The guys who are more driven and see that are the guys who made it to the pros from college. Yep. Okay, I think that's really cool. What about, is there much difference as far as coaching and how you interact with the different coaches on the teams?
Right. So when I started at LSU, that's when a lot of universities were starting to create nutrition programs. It was kind of in the beginning. And so I've just seen how it has evolved where coaches really didn't see the importance of it. Oh, well, we won back in the day doing this, or not worrying about eating healthy, so we should be fine. Nowadays, they understand. And I think it's because of the sport dietitians that are employed both in the university level and the professional level have done a phenomenal job of not only educating the athletes, but the coaches and administration. And they truly understand, and they really do take it to heart. Not only for the athletes, but for themselves too, because I've seen a difference in them taking care of their bodies' physical activity, wanting to eat right, and they have just as many questions as the players do.
That's fantastic. That's so good to hear. And then what about the organizations, just a level of support from a college level versus from the NFL?
Right. I think they're about equal because they know that their athletes are very important to their athletic department or their business when it comes to the professional level. But I would say they're about equal. I don't think one looks at, a college looks at their athlete as more important than our NFL team looks at our players.
Do you think when it comes to the athletes themselves, as student athletes, they don't have as much money and they're eating on campus. And so I wouldn't think all, but a large part of what you're dealing with then is what the meals are on campus that they're getting through, that they're, there's a lot fewer options there.
Right, right.
Is that a big difference?
I would say, just following, keeping up with what the colleges are doing, they've come a long way when it comes to healthier options in the dining hall, implementing fueling stations around their athletic department. So I would say at least for some of the bigger schools, they do have a lot of great, healthy, nutritious options with education paired on top of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big change.
And then, okay, so kind of the main difference there. And then walk us through your typical day of, I know it varies with off season and in season, but what's a typical day in the life of an NFL sports dietitian?
Right. And I love this question because I usually say, well, there's no typical day, but in the end, yes, we do have a typical day. So my day usually starts around 6:30 in the morning, and we have a full breakfast available to the guys. And this breakfast, we have omelet stations. We have really pretty much anything you can think of when it comes to a breakfast food, eggs and turkey sausage and yogurt and fruit and oatmeal. And so they have lots of options to make sure that we get some good calories, good protein in them when their day starts. From there, we'll have a team meeting, and that will consist of our head coach addressing the team on, what they'll be practicing that day. And that meeting will have all of the coaches, all of the staff, and obviously all the players. From there, they'll break into their individual position groups, I guess you would say. So running backs will meet, quarterbacks will meet, defensive ends will meet, and they'll watch their specific film. They'll get ready for practice. And so that would say that would be from like 8 until 11:30 or 12. So it's a big gap. So that's where these fueling stations come in. And I've had several conversations with coaches to make sure not only to let them just go use the restroom, but get them into the fueling station so we can get them some calories. Because I don't want them going into practice without eating since 6:30 in the morning.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they come in, they've got the breakfast, and then are you in the team meeting with them all?
Yes.
So you hear goals, you hear priorities, and then they break out, but they haven't even started practicing yet. So, okay. So then they've got to stop by the fueling station, get themselves energized, then practice.
Right. Right. So some of them come during their meetings for a snack, and then also maybe about 10 or so minutes before practice starts to get like a quick sugar or something in them before practice starts. Practice will begin between 11:30 and 12. We also implemented we call it just our nutrition cart on the sideline, and that has certain items, electrolyte packets, little gummies for quick sugars, apple sauces, and obviously our athletic trainers are in charge of the hydration, water, and sports drinks, extra electrolytes to keep the hydration up. So that is available during practice.
And how long's practice usually?
Practice is usually about 2.5 hours.
And then lunch is after?
And then lunch is after. So it's not a typical lunch. Like usually you would think lunch is at noon. For these guys, some of them aren't eating until 3.
Okay.
So again, that's why we have these fueling stations.
It's key. It's huge. Right.
And they utilize it all throughout the day.
And so that's a typical day in season, and you travel with the team to away games.
That's correct.
And you plan everything throughout.
Right.
And then, so we've talked, tell me about the one-on-one. So they don't all necessarily sit down for an official one-on-one session, but I would imagine most of the newer players, if you're not familiar with them, you're sitting down for that one-on-one.
Right. If I know, and usually I'll talk to our athletic trainers or even some of our scouts, because the scouts are the ones that have really learned about these rookies coming in, and they're like, hey, they've had some issues with weight gain, or, we need to really watch his weight. He tends to put on weight easily. Can you talk to him? So after we draft a guy or sign a guy that may have somewhat of a weight issue or some sort of nutrition issue, I'll sit down with them. And I like to keep it casual. I don't like to have them think that it's like a doctor's appointment, and I'm real casual with these guys, because in the end, I really want to establish a good rapport so that they can feel that they can come to me for anything during the season. And I mean anything. And they do. They come to me with some crazy questions and some fun facts about digestive problems that, that I think you wouldn't typically think they would talk to me about. But once they get that familiarity with me and my personality, and I'm here to help, they'll talk to me about anything.
And it says a lot for you that they do. And I think that that's really key, is that, that session is a one-on-one sit down with them. But the reality is you have the entire season with them. You don't have to get everything even at all covered in that one session, because you can kind of gradually build on that as you go.
Exactly. Now, I think that's the biggest difference between a consultant and a full-time dietitian, is that full-time dietitian can really be there at any point of the day. And if a guy's looking for me, or whether it be another dietitian from another team, whoever they're looking for, they know where the dietitian is, and they know they can ask them whatever they want.
Right. It's building that relationship. And what are some of the things that are, I guess, common things that they're asking about along? I know supplements is a big issue.
Yes. Supplements is huge. And not necessarily that all supplements are bad, but it's really making sure, first and foremost, it's safe. Number two, does it even work? Is there really good research behind it? And then also along that safety lines, is it third party tested to make sure that it's not going to test positive for a drug test? Because these guys do get drug tested for performance enhancing ingredients, and we want to make sure that anything that they're taking isn't going to test positive.
So them knowing that they can trust, come to you, bring these products, and then you can give them thumbs up or research it if needed.
Exactly.
And get back with them. I think that's great to have that as a resource. And then what are some of the things that, I think we think of NFL players, their bodies are, their livelihood. But I think in probably a lot of ways, they're a lot like us as far as maybe the struggles they have or the challenges and stuff like that. So are there some ways that, like, especially your guys who struggle to keep their weight down, do they have some of the same challenges as everybody else who struggles to keep their weight down? Like nighttime temptations, you want to get the ice cream, or you open the fridge and you just keep staring at it, or the nighttime snacks.
Yeah, like you see these guys on TV and they're, these amazing athletes, playing a phenomenal game of football, but you need to look under the helmet, look under the pads. They are human, just like us, just a little bit bigger, just a little bit stronger. But they do go through some of the normal issues when it comes to, say, a guy does have trouble keeping weight off. Those temptations are still there, and it's really trying to find what it is that is causing those temptations. Can we modify a few things so they can eat their favorite foods and not have to binge on them because they've restricted them for so long? Can we find different ways? Because these guys do like to go out with their teammates a lot to restaurants around town. And you don't want to say, oh, you can't go out to eat because you'll go over your calories. No, it's helping them figure out different guidelines on, okay, when you're going out to eat, try to order certain items along these lines instead of these, especially in New Orleans. It's a little bit tougher because the food is so good. And
we have, for those of you who aren't in New Orleans, we have our Eat Fit program that my nutrition team here has worked on. And Jamie's been a big supporter of that, letting her athletes know, like when they go to restaurants, look for Eat Fit on the menu, which is really cool.
Yes. And they've embraced that too. So it's been very helpful.
So what about muscle cramping? Because I know that's probably something that a lot of them struggle with.
Yes.
What do you do for that? Like, what's some of your top recs for that?
So when you think of muscle cramping, a lot of people think, okay, they're cramping, they're dehydrated. And yes, dehydration obviously plays a big part in muscle cramps. But there is lots of new research out there that's showing it's not just dehydration. It could be different problems with our nerves, like just different nerve malfunction. And it could be anxiety related. When it comes to big games, someone that's super anxious, it messes with your nerves and your muscles just kind of freak out and there goes a cramp. So it's not necessarily just dehydration, but we do really push proper hydration strategies. Again, being in the South, especially during training camp in the summer, we're practicing outside in the 110 degree heat. And so we push fluids and electrolytes. But when it comes to certain certain guys where we know it's not a dehydration problem, we try to find, okay, is it anxiety issues? Is it some sort of nerve malfunction? And we do utilize pickle juice a lot. And pickle juice, you think of as kind of like an old school type of way of helping with muscle cramps. But let me tell you, within about a minute or so, it relieves many, many of our guys' cramps. And I call it like the magic juice because it is phenomenal. Like, it really is.
So I wrote a column on it a couple of years ago on pickle juice because I was like, all right, I had a physical therapist. So they were just like pushing it on everybody and everyone talks about pickle juice. I was like, what is it? Because it's so instantaneous that it relieves the cramps. And so I was like, what is in it? Because if you're thinking about it from like a physiological standpoint, you've got this, muscle cramp and you consume this pickle juice. Yeah, it's high in sodium, but it happens in such a split second time that it doesn't give time for that to actually digest, get into our system, and that sodium to actually be the reason for that cramp. So the research on it is that it's actually the acetic acid that is in the pickle juice. And that acetic acid is hitting the nerves basically in our throat that are sending the messages to that muscle, like you said, that are basically bundled up and angry muscles that are cramping up. So it's triggering that nerve impulse from the nerves that are in our throat through our bodies to that angry bundled up muscle. Right. So I think it
relaxes it.
Mm-hmm. So there truly is something to pickle juice that seems crazy, but now like people who have even if it's not athletes, people who get like Charlie horses frequently at night, I can't tell you how many people have told me after discussing this or hearing this, they sleep with a jar of pickle juice.
I can tell you an example. My dad he's self-employed in construction, and he's obviously outside in the heat in the New Orleans weather, and over the years, he'll come home, he's fine, and then I guess it just kind of hits him, and he starts full body cramp.
My dad too.
Pickle juice.
Yes.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yes.
So we don't have to call the ambulance anymore.
My dad would even have a hard time holding the newspaper. His hands, full body cramps.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That's interesting.
So, some people are kind of weary of it, but I've seen it work. Like, I've seen it work. So we carry it, and we have little 2-ounce shots for these guys, and we keep it cold. We keep it on ice during practice and in games, so we have it always available. We have guys, fun fact, he came in, he asked for a cup of ice. I said, okay. And then I see him pouring the pickle juice. He goes, I just like the taste, so I'm just going to drink it during meetings. I'm like, you go for it, So, sometimes they just like the taste, but it is for a specific purpose.
And I am so happy that one of the things that people are so excited about and actually really works is also so safe.
Right,
it's like,
right.
It's just pickle juice, but it is kind of fascinating that it can be so effective. Mm-hmm. All right. So Jamie, thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing so much insight. And if someone wants to get in touch with you or find out more information, where do they reach out?
They can reach out to me through our team website, which is in neworleanssaints.com. Lots of information on there just about our team, but there is a contact information on there as well.
All right, fantastic. All right, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're so grateful to Jamie for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. You can find the links that she mentioned in the show notes of this episode. I'm Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you would like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, you can head over to mollykimball.com. That's www.mollykimball.com. And you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life possible.